Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Now, we talk a lot about our rights, right? But what about the other side of that coin? Today, we're diving into something just as important, but way less talked about our fundamental duties.
I mean, seriously, we all talk about our fundamental rights. They're the foundation of our democracy, for sure. But what about our fundamental duties? What even are they, and where did they come from?
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? The idea that with rights come responsibilities. So let's get into how our Constitution looks at these duties. They're not meant to be chains, but more like the glue that holds all our freedoms together.
So, what are we actually talking about here? Well, the Constitution calls them moral obligations for every single citizen. It's less of a strict rule book and more like a moral compass. It's supposed to guide us to help us be better citizens and build a stronger nation. And if you're looking for them, they're all packed into one place. Article 51A.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. A little surprising fact for you, these duties, they weren't in the original Constitution from 1950 at all. They were added way, way later. And that, of course, makes you wonder, why the change? What happened?
Well, this story plays out over a few decades. In 1950, when the Constitution was adopted, nothing. Zip, nada on duties. Then you fast forward 26 years to 1976, a pretty chaotic period in India's history, and bam, 10 duties just appear in the Constitution. And then another one gets added in 2002. It just goes to show this wasn't part of the original plan at all. It was something that evolved over time.
All right, so now that we've got the backstory, let's actually look at what these 11 duties are. To make it a bit easier to digest, we're going to break them down into 3 simple groups.
First up, we have our duties to the nation. This is the big picture stuff, patriotism, national identity, all that. We're talking about abiding by the Constitution, respecting our national symbols like the flag and the anthem. It also means we've got to uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India, and be ready to defend the country if it comes to that. Okay, next up are our duties to society. This is all about how we treat each other and the world around us. It's about promoting harmony and a spirit of brotherhood, putting aside all those religious or regional divides. And this one is so important. It specifically calls on us to renounce practices that are disrespectful to women. It also talks about valuing our incredible diverse culture and, of course, protecting our natural environment.
And the last group, these are duties for personal and civic growth. Basically, stuff that helps us improve ourselves and our communities. This is where you see things like developing a scientific temper, thinking rationally and with curiosity. It also includes safeguarding public property, so no vandalism, and just striving for excellence in everything you do. And that 11th one, the one added in 2002, that's the duty for parents and guardians to give their kids educational opportunities. All right, let's circle back to that big why question. Why 1976 of all years? To really get it, you have to understand the context. The history here is everything, and believe me, it's a pretty wild story.
So the inspiration for this actually came from the Constitution of the former USSR, but the timing is what's key. They were added during the emergency. The official reason? To promote national discipline and to send a message that, hey, rights are great, but they don't exist in a vacuum. They come with a side of responsibility. This brings us to maybe the most important question of all. If we have rights and we have duties, what's the actual difference between them? Well, it all boils down to one single, really important legal word: non-justiciable. Okay, so think of it like this. Your fundamental rights are justiciable. That means if someone violates your rights, you can take them to court and the court can enforce it. Simple enough? But fundamental duties, they're non-justiciable. So a court can't legally punish you for, say, not having a scientific temper. They're meant to be a moral guide, not a legal weapon. Oh, and another key difference, they apply only to citizens of India.
So if you can't be taken to court over them, you're probably thinking, okay, so what? Why should I even care? And that's a fair question. But their real-world impact is actually a lot bigger and a lot more subtle than you might think. Here's why they matter. They really are supposed to be that moral compass for us as citizens, a constant reminder of our responsibilities to each other and to the country. They're all about finding that balance, between our personal freedom and what's good for society. They push us to think about national unity, to protect our environment, and believe it or not, they even help guide the courts when they have to make tough decisions. And that's where their hidden power comes in. While you personally can't be dragged to court for violating a duty,
The Supreme Court has actually used the fundamental duties time and time again to help interpret laws. They've shaped huge landmark judgments, especially in cases about environmental protection and education. So they might not have direct teeth, but they give a whole lot of weight and meaning to the laws we already have.
Now, to be fair, these duties aren't perfect, and they've got their fair share of critics. Some people argue the wording is just way too vague. I mean, what does strive for excellence or composite culture actually mean in practice? Others just write them off as a toothless code of conduct since they aren't enforceable. And because of their origins during the emergency, some people see them as a political tool. And let's be honest, probably the biggest issue is that most people don't even know they exist.
But despite all those criticisms, just think about the world we live in today. When you look at massive issues like climate change, that duty to protect the environment suddenly feels incredibly relevant. Or with all the social division we see, that duty to promote harmony and brotherhood, man, that feels more critical than ever. It's like their importance is actually growing over time.
So that's where we'll leave it. The fundamental duties hold this really unique, kind of strange place in our Constitution. They aren't laws that force you to do anything. They're ideals that are meant to guide you. Which leaves us with a pretty big question, right? If they aren't a set of rules you have to follow, are they a moral compass you should?